20 of the acts of
Yeah, keep going.
the acts of 2021. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. Additionally, all votes taken by the State-Fort Park Committee Advisory Committee during this and future remote meetings will be roll call vote only. If you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9, number 9 to request to speak. If you're watching on a computer or device, there is a raised hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during oral communications to be recognized to speak. So we will do a roll call.
Yeah.
Craig Anderson. No. David Benjamin, yes. Mark Cole, yes.
Yes.
No,
We have to, everybody's supposed to say yes or no, not you.
they're not saying yes.
Well.
We'll go
Mark said
again.
yes, we heard
I'll
him.
do that again. We gotta practice here.
Craig Anderson, are you here? No.
Next,
David Benjamin,
here.
Mark Cole,
Yes.
David Dow, here. Mike Hale, no. Steve Katie,
Here.
here. Jamie Marshall, no. Sean Nolan, no. Adrian Sweet, yes.
Here.
Okay. Now you can welcome everybody.
Thank you all for participating. You got my agenda here.
Yeah,
That's it, March.
that's it.
Okay. Secretary's report.
Secretary's report is part of the packet. Could we have a motion to accept?
Sorry, I muted motioned.
Okay, sweet. In a second,
You're a second?
Second.
Katie, okay. Any additions, omissions, edits? We're good, all in favor? Oh, no,
Aye.
this has to be
Aye.
a roll call,
Gotta
sorry.
be roll call, yeah.
All right.
Just the people that are here.
David Benjamin,
Yes,
Mark Cole,
Yes.
David Dow, yes. Steve Katie,
Yes.
Adrian,
Adrian Sweet.
Yes.
passes unanimously. Excellent. Now we go to new business. Oh, public comments, sorry.
Public comments, or anyone out there wishing to comment, hit the raised hand button. Whose voice is that? No public comments? No public
No,
comments.
no.
New business, State-Fort Park renovation plan, is that our new,
That's it. Start with that.
the brand new one? I think you all got a copy of that map.
Yep.
That you probably had a little bit of a time to look at. David and I filed an
I'm sorry, it sounds like somebody's like there's a TV in the background or something and I can't hear. I'm just gonna,
Yeah, I'm getting the same thing.
all right, yeah, everyone just mutes.
That's weird.
Can I go on?
Yeah.
So we did file an eligibility, and we will hear sometime within the next few weeks. And what I did is I got the original plan that goes back to 2017. It was actually Steve Winslow's plan that went astray because of some other issues that we couldn't resolve at the time. So we're going to try to put that through again as a CPC thing. It needs a lot of work. Actually, for me to get in touch with the city, the CPC, Bruce Toby, a little bit of everybody, because it has a really heavy price tag. At 2017, we did have the public hearing. We're in the process of getting all those records. Jamie Corliss is helping us. We have some of it. We don't have all of it. Steve Winslow has also helped me on that. So we're looking just to put this forward and see where we can go with it, knowing well aware that 2017 price of 2.3 million is probably 4 million or whatever. Now we have to resolve that. And we're going to do that by contacting all of the city people early on rather than after we've gone through the whole process to get some recommendations as to where we can go with the plan and where we can get the funding. So with that, if anyone has any comments regarding that plan, be happy to hear them.
At one point, we decided that it might be a wiser thing to break it up into like 2 or 3 different stages.
It's actually already on paper written that way. And the first phase was the design and plan. The second phase was correct me if I'm wrong, David, was to do the parking area and the staging area down closer to the covered restaurant. Do that
Yep.
end first, and then go inside the park to do the irrigation project and the landscaping up near the visitor center and the bandstand, because you'd have a place to hold events on the other side of the street while you were going to lose that. So in other words, the irrigation project would be the last part of the plan.
But that's also the least expensive part of the plan, isn't it?
I forget. We don't have the breakdown numbers yet. We have a total number for the whole plan, which David had mentioned was 2.3. We put 2.9 on the eligibility request. But it came in 3 pieces, and the third piece, I guess we thought was down by the seawall, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the fourth stage of it. But again, until we see the whole plan written out, our records are a little bit incomplete. But the first part was the first part was the parking lot, I guess. And
So
the
I just have,
second part- yeah,
when
go
you-
ahead, Adrian.
when I'm looking at this parking lot, right, there's that line. It looks like it's about 180 feet in. There's like that line. Is that the current barrier?
That's the
of
property
parking lot?
line. That broken line is the property line.
So then if you go to Beachmont, right, and you see that house, it just has one house. There's actually a new build right there as well.
Yeah.
That isn't on this map that I'm but so they're gonna cut down those woods and
They're gonna
Put
clean
this
the
parking
woods
lot
out. Yeah, they're gonna clean the
and put
woods
it
out.
closer to those residents, and those residents
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, and
Minus-
they were
minus
part
the
of the
new-
public hearing way back when. I'm
I know,
guessing
I
there's
just
probably
know-
have to be another public hearing.
Well, that new house went up and the neighborhood is in quite a tizzy about green space being taken over for construction. And I know they've gotten a lot of lawyers involved, and I know that whole Beachmont neighborhood's up in arms right now about losing green space. So I'm curious to see what they say about this once they receive these plans. Would it go to another public hearing or?
We don't know.
Yeah, so this also doesn't reflect the World War II memorial that's been put down at I'm sorry, the
That's right, yeah,
Vietnam
that's-
Memorial.
This
I
this
just-
drawing is from 2017.
Yeah, it's just getting to be right. Like every inch of space is now being taken up with, something. Not that it's not beautiful. It's a great design. It's tough, it's such a busy neighborhood, and we just keep adding to
Yeah, I think
traffic
part of,
and
Yeah,
it's
part of
a
the
lot
issue,
to take in.
part of the issue where they're proposing this plaza and
Yeah.
staging area, that was going to be where the farmer's market was
Right.
relocated.
Right.
And it became also a place where you could have events. And
Yes.
then they wanted to make the parking lot bigger because they were
Right,
losing
because they need to-
spaces.
Of course, and that's a huge source of revenue
Yeah.
for us. So we don't
And
want
then
to
the
lose.
other piece of it that he proposed a pathway from Stage Fort Park to go across Western Avenue
And
and
up
up
at
for
Old
access
Salem
into
Road.
Ravenswood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
has
but-
anyone ever climbed Old Salem Road?
Yeah.
It's 2 miles straight up. You don't
Yeah,
want to walk
tell
the
me.
woods after you finish Old Salem, I'll tell you that.
Well, part of that rationale was by tying in access to the woods, they
Yeah.
got a better shot at the grant because it was a multi-purpose
Of course.
recreational grant, got you into the woods.
No,
They were
I
talking
don't,
about-
I'm looking at this and it looks like it looks great. It's a lot to take in. Then I see, more kayak storage down here by the tennis courts. It's like there's so much going on. There's so much
Yeah.
all the time. This is before they put that shed in, and now I don't know
Yeah.
if there's a plan for the bathrooms. I love this walk up. Somebody give me the proper pronunciation. I've lived there my whole life. Huav, how do we say that?
Huff. They call it
Huff?
Huff. Yeah,
Is it really
like
Huff?
HUFF. Yeah.
Because I worked 6 years at the cupboard and they didn't know the correct pronunciation either. But I do love that walkway, getting it off the street and just, and that would tie in so nicely with the new path at the Cannons and
Yeah.
that whole side I love. Of course, this does, as I mentioned last time, my number one concern with Stage Fort Park right now is Cressy's Beach, and it's just underutilized is what it could be. And I know there's conservation issues there, why it isn't a beach anymore, but it's just absolutely dangerous. I mean, the sinkholes are becoming, and maybe Mark can talk a little bit to what's going on down there, if there's any plans down there, but that doesn't seem to be, like, if there's money to spend, and I see 2.3 million by 2017 standards is way inflated. I mean, 6% at the least, right? So with that money, is this the best build for Stage Fort? Is this where we want to invest, right? Like, and I'm sure everyone has different opinions on it. For me, it's like safety first, right? That host seawall could really be beautiful and it could extend down to Talbot Rock. And right now it's impassable and it's got to be a liability. There's like a 10-foot sinkhole where the tree just drops off and the roots are all exposed. I'm not sure if Mark's even here anymore.
I'm still
Hear
here.
you, yeah.
Oh, all right. I was just saying, I don't know if there's a plan for that. I just, like
There's
the
FEMA
upkeep.
money there's some FEMA money from the last big storm that we're just about ready to go out to bid on to make the repairs down there.
Okay. Yeah. But there's no chance of ever making it a beach again, huh? That's sort of not a possibility.
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah. If you've ever been to Half Moon Beach on a Sunday afternoon, it's breathing room only. It's not even walking room anymore. It's just people on people on people. And it's so great for the city to have these resources. It's just such a shame. It's a strip of land was a beautiful beach, but I'd love to see it fixed up. No, I mean, my concerns it's just that parking. I can't see taking the woods down to add 120 feet of parking. It seems like a big project. And I know the farmer's market is behind this too. But have they exhausted other resources on where to put the farmer's market? Does it have to be Stage Fort? I mean, why can't they set up in the Boudreaux Field parking lot? There's parking, you just walk up and down the hill, or the high school isn't utilized in the summer. There's a huge parking lot over there. It seems like a pretty big expansion to the park where I just know on behalf of the neighbors, it seems like a lot of traffic coming back at us. I don't know. I'd feel remorse if I didn't put in my 2 cents.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Any other comments? No comments.
Well, I just would like to throw out there that we're not really sure what's going on with the farmer's market at this point. They just sort of dropped off the face of the earth after last summer or the summer before? Last summer,
yeah, and I read sort of some like comments here. What was the initial reason they left the gazebo area? Was it
initially,
it just turned out not to be a good use of space for them
Well,
or?
it was wear and tear on the area that, especially
Yeah.
with the 400th coming up and like that.
Yeah.
And we offered them a couple other spots and they didn't want to go to the other spots. So
Okay, okay,
it
Right.
was their choice.
okay. I
They
figured there was a
fell in
back,
love-
there was
They
some sort
fell
of,
in love with the view up
well,
there.
what's not to love, right?
Yeah,
I don't blame them, but it becomes a dust bowl up there, you know, it's
Yeah.
really, it's not
And
quite.
that was
the
one of the reasons why they were asked to, give that area a little rest for a couple of years and see if some grass could come back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, definitely.
that's why I also mentioned that if we could if we can do it in a number of phases, that the gazebo area and irrigating that and seeding that, to me, makes the most sense to start with.
Okay,
and then,
I mean, it
and then
agreed.
becomes an issue
makes-
of, you need to move,
Yeah,
you need to find a different venue for that summer
Right.
that you're gonna be doing
and
that.
those summer concerts are, it's such a great event, and it's like such a nice tradition this town has, those Sunday afternoons in the park. It'd be a shame to lose the summer of that and I see what you're saying with having a venue for that while you're restoring what's up there.
Yeah, it would, that wouldn't be impossible,
Yeah,
but again, you'd need,
I know.
The point about breaking it up into smaller pieces, it's not a bad idea. The choices we would have as a committee would be whether to try to present this in its original form in 3 stages or 4 stages, whatever it is, or to just go forward with
Yeah,
one part of it and say, well, we're going to do this for now. I'm not so sure if you lose impact by cutting it down by a third or so. One of the interesting meetings we had about this project, there was a fellow, Frank Cousins, who was the former sheriff, who was Safasha Romeo's, I don't know, what do you call him, Mark? What was his title?
He was the chief executive officer.
Okay, chief executive officer. And he suggested we use the model that they used when they had a big project like this in Salisbury. And he was willing to have the meeting or call all the interested parties together. And his suggestion was you bring in the state, you bring in your local reps, your senator and your rep, the city government, any interested players, and you start having a series of planning meetings to find out who could ante up some money toward the whole cost of the project,
right.
where the money might be, and what portion of it the city might be willing to come in with. And he was, he didn't stay as long as we'd hoped.
Yeah.
But by that time, the grant had disappeared for this project.
I think.
Yeah,
Steve-
I mean, my concern, the park is it's becoming so congested, with like now there's a rink and another park and now we're adding another playground and, it just,
No, actually, we're not in the playground. That's
they're not doing the playground now. That's news.
no, what we are doing is we are taking out the older equipment.
And
that's
replacing it with an
basically-
updated playground. Yes. Okay.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yes, it's going to be slightly larger. There will also be better wheelchair accessibility to
Right.
that whole area.
The playground honestly is the part that's where that's one of the amazing pieces that's coming out of some revamps, but it's hard. It's a hard neighborhood to live in. It's a hard neighborhood to have the traffic all hours of the day, the bridge traffic, people in your yard, they're parking people on Kent Circle when, because there's free parking, right? People don't want to pay in the lots. The boulevard's free all day, 12 hours at a time. There's trash in everyone's yard. Like it's like there's some problems that aren't being addressed and it's like we're just keep adding to it. it's hard for me to be like, oh, let me back this great big project that's coming in, when it's like there's all these little projects that I feel like aren't really being for the neighborhood, aren't being addressed. And I mean, that's what happens when you live in a public area, I suppose. But at the same time, it's just, we're losing a lot of space to parking and these big projects that it feels there's always construction, right? I don't know. I just, the plans as they were initially were presented, I saw the original plans as well, and these are actually, I like these ones, but as long as we can upkeep it and there is a plan in place, then I guess it makes a little more sense. But I feel like the DPW is so overwhelmed, so overwhelmed with the amount of work that we already are putting on the city for them to, I don't know, keep our parks up to par, I suppose. But it would be nice. I mean, it is a nice venue. I had to add my 2 cents. So I don't know
Okay.
how far along we are in the process of it, but I would definitely check in with the neighborhood.
Okay, well, we're just barely into eligibility. Obviously, we're gonna get that. We would be eligible to did it. And then we gotta touch bases with whether, for instance, maybe the CPA committee would like to just go for the whole ball of wax and bond it like they did City Hall. That might be a far reach, but that's a possibility. Back then in 17, Steve, I think he had a commitment from the state to put in some money, not the state, I think it was maybe, yeah, it was the state rather than the feds. So once we find out how realistic it is to get some money and where it would come from, it's not a good time to pick apart and say whether we should do it in 2 or 3 different pages. Maybe we can luck out and get a big piece of it, if not the whole thing all at once. If we cut it up into 4 pieces, we're going to get inflation, and we're going to take 4 or 5 years down the road to get it done. So we do intend to reach out to everybody in the city. David and I are putting a packet together. So one would go to DPW and one would go to Boostar and everyone else, so they'll know that we're sitting down. We need to sit down and talk about this, and we need to do it soon. Normal timetable for this kind of a thing. The smaller thing is we submit all the stuff, and then you sit back for a year while all the other people in the city get to work on it and you get your money. But this has to be started early on because there is a lot of money going. So to me, we get started during the next month as soon as we're sure we can have the eligibility letter, talk to these people and see how realistic it is to get 3, 4, 5 million and do it all at once and get it over with. If we're going to pick this apart, if you take a look at the CPC committee now, they got 1.137 or something like that dollars to work with this coming year. So obviously, they're not going to give us even 300,000 or 400,000. They're going to do the same thing they did this year. They're going to parcel it out, 50 to 100,000 bucks a piece, and I don't have a problem with that. But that's all we're going to get out of them unless they bond it. So I'm suggesting that maybe within the next month or so, if we can get these people together, we'll have a better idea of who can fund it and how much. I don't think we want to go into too much of a design change. If we do that, we're going to have to fall back on a new plan. And we did that 2 years ago when we had 2 applications through, and then at the end of it, we missed out for the whole year because of things got dragged out. So this plan, I think, is a good plan to start, and let's find out where we can possibly get the money and how soon can we get the money. I think that's where we need to go next, and take it from there. We do have, if you look at your copy, we have diagram H. There are other diagrams that Jamie Collis is looking looking to get for us, and I've been in touch with Steve Winslow as well. He did file all of this stuff. David got the notes of where he filed it. So, in another meeting, we'll have a better idea of where it all goes.
And it appears that where the drawings that we have stop, there was some work described that was gonna happen on the seawall down at Cressy's. And there's this other whole parcel of property that's underutilized, that's at the end of the park, right next to Western Avenue. The old seawall, if you get into the weeds down there. At the very end of the existing seawall, down below that, another 20 feet or so, is the remnants of what used to be the seawall. And I thought that this Winslow plan addressed that, but we won't really know until we see what Jamie Corliss can come up with in the records.
Okay, can we move on? Is there any other, does everybody agree that maybe that's a likely way to go? We'll get some meetings going and report back as we go. Okay. Where are we? Election of officers.
Election of officers for the year.
Do we want to do that
We
tonight?
probably should wait until,
We probably should wait,
Jamie
I
and,
would think,
Yeah,
until we have
all right, let's.
more attendance.
we'll
Yeah.
pass on that, and then what's under old business.
Old business is for area restoration. Well, we know the money has gone through. I'm not sure, maybe Mark would know if there's some movement been made to go to bid, that sort of thing. But that's where that stands. It's kind of out of our hands right now, except to report back to the CPC with our first letter that the project has started. So Mark, do you know where that might be?
I don't, but I can check with Mike in the morning.
Okay.
We did sign the contract with CDC rather, and DPW. But that's it. That's been the only,
It's probably pretty close. I was walking I was in the park last night, and there was a fellow there from a construction company with a transit, but he was doing some stuff for the playground bid, I guess. So that bid must be getting somewhere because he was there. Obviously, he was interested in bidding. So maybe we're close, getting close to that. So any other questions on the fort area restoration? We did, just for a minute,
did the walkthrough.
we did a walkthrough we did do a walkthrough. Tracy O'Neill was concerned about the area on the fort itself and some of the elevations and just how are we going to place the cannons. I had a telephone conversation with her about that. She then did call back and ask for a walkthrough with her. So David and I did that with her last Tuesday night. Not the best night in the world to do it, but we had the plans with her. We went down there and talked to her and showed her what we intended to do and what the plan was for. She is somewhat concerned and maybe not in 100% in favor of what we're doing at the fort, but she did understand when we left on what we were trying to do and what it would look like. And if there's been any pushback on the work at the fort, it seems to be the elevation of the dune, so to speak. We did plan on cutting them down by quite a bit to improve visibility and that sort of thing, but it also is pretty much a carbon copy of that plan back during the Civil War at one period. The dunes were much, much lower and much wider on the top. And it was more level in the middle. So we're getting closer to back what it had been at one time anyway. So she understood that, and I think we answered all those questions. So the only remaining thing left with the park itself, in my view anyway, is the placement of the flagpole, which shows on the original plan is kind of in the middle of the park. But the flagpole I don't think that flagpole can legally go there if you're having fireworks. There's some distances that you have to have on that. We may not be able to meet that, so to me, the placement of the flagpole might be a design build thing once they start on it. So that's the only other remaining thing that has to be addressed. So that takes care of that plan. Cannon is next. We're working on the third cannon. Both axles have been done. We have 4 of the wheels have been done, finished rather. So another week or 2 can start putting the other stuff on top of it. Once the 2 axles and the 4 wheels are finished, that's kind of the hardest part of it to do. It goes along a little bit faster because it's more straightforward and easier to work with. So that's moving forward. We have some new white oak to work with. It's going to be more realistic than the first one that we did. So that's coming along pretty good. I think it's going to come in looking just fine. I happened to be talking with a Canon guy today that I met. It was obviously by phone. One of the cannons similar to ours is being restored by a guy down on Cape Cod. Maybe it's a business rather than just a guy. I'm not sure about that. But it's a hands-on thing. And their budget for that one cannon right now is over 60,000.
Wow.
So we got originally 20,000 to buy some white oak for all of them. We haven't asked for more money. I've replaced that as we went along. So I think that's going to turn out to be a pretty good deal. So there is other cannons being restored. They're out there, and one thing that our cannons don't have yet is there is a lot of metal work with implements to hold ropes and that sort of thing, and they're not on any of our cannons yet, but they will be at the end, and it does improve the looks at them. But to get that to look right, you really need to go to a blacksmith shop to do it. I have talked with a blacksmith guy down Maine that really uses the old time methods of doing that. It doesn't really use much machinery, so we'll be able to get some hooks and some screw eyes and some brackets and that sort of thing on there, which lends to make them look a little bit better in the end. So that's where we are with the cannons. Any question on that? The cannon down at the boulevard, by the way, needs to be painted. I only put 1 coat on everything last year, see how it will work out, but it will definitely get painted here during the next month or 2, and I'll spiff that one up a little bit. So anything else on those?
Just a question about how, were we able to resolve anything about the firing caps?
We have, I did talk with the same canning guy I talked to today. For those of you that might not be familiar with it, when we were firing the cannon last year at the Schooner Festival, we fired the cannon 8 times, and it took 17 primers to get the gunpowder to ignite. We just had a lot of trouble with those primers. So I've been working on that. And there's another way to do that. Maybe we can do that, but that should not happen again. we'll be buying some primers pretty soon. The newer the primers are, the better off you are. The newer the gunpowder is, the better off you are. But if you wait till the middle of June and order your primers and gunpowder, you can't get it because everybody on every cannon thing right across the country, and there's a lot of that going on, is buying that stuff, so you can't do it. You kind of got to buy it ahead of time. And I'll do it again. And we'll have plenty to do. I don't expect we'll have trouble with the primers this year. There are other ways to ignite that fire, but it's not as realistic it is seeing somebody pull that cord like they did 100 years ago. So, any other questions? There's going to be a motion to,
Well, if that's it, is there any other business, anything we haven't talked about? I just wanted to mention that Mark and I spoke very briefly about what the odds are of having live meetings and the current. Could you explain that again when the thing runs out?
I think the current order runs out at the end of March, and they still haven't made a decision as to whether they're going to extend it or put everything back the way it was.
Mhm. So hopefully we'll be able to have some live meetings April. But we won't select a date tonight until we know what's going to happen at the end of the month. It would be really nice to get meetings in person and sort of rejuvenate our activity a little bit, get fired up a little bit.
how about the KPN Savings Bank thing? Is that,
What's that?
we can't use that at night anymore?
Well, the savings bank, I think, is open, but the city meetings can't happen unless you're inside a place where they do the recording. And they only do that at the Harbor Master and City Hall, Mark?
Yeah, City Hall and the Harbor Masters.
Yeah. So there's only
That's
two
if it
places you go
remains-
for that.
That's if it's a hybrid meeting. If it's in person, record.
I'm not, I don't know where I received this, but I'm of the impression that there's some pushback from residents of the KPN Savings Bank condos of having city meetings in that community room at night, which we would. Weren't there some issues on that?
I don't know. I didn't hear it from the bank.
Yeah.
So,
There is, residents kind of, I think they didn't appreciate a bunch of people walking around in their hallways at night. So I don't know whether we're gonna lose that or not, but if we do, we do, but.
We
I
could
would-
always try Bank Gloucester.
What is that?
Bank Gloucester has a conference room as well.
Yeah, they do. I kind of like the Harbor Master's office. That seemed to work the night we were down there during the CPC thing. I liked it. I liked it down there. I didn't see any problem with that.
okay, could we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
A second.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thanks again, Mark. I appreciate it.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Night.